Hi, everybody. I'm just organizing something here. We have a few questions. This one is from Della Nicole, and he says, I've been listening to talks with the Dr. Vanessa Lapointe, who is a psychologist and parent advisor. Relative, and I think it's relative to her two children. Often she uses similar words that you use, and recently she spoke about how we carry 7 generations with us, and it reminded me that you have said this quite often in the past, and I have experienced pieces of my family in me over the years in my practice with you. Can you talk a little bit about it, the 7 generations of family habits and behaviors that can affect us without our awareness, and how using the tools and meditation can help shift that in us and in our future families? I've written a little bit of something. Let me try first of all. This 7 generations is really interesting. It's, I think originally it was aligned with 7 chakras, 7 this, 7 that, as a kind of metaphysical number that is tossed around and has been tossed around for a long, long time. Normally when I talk about it, I sometimes will say, not always, but this is just kind of a guess. What's been found to be more valuable is the fact that we copy energetically and literally from our parents, and it starts, and I mentioned this, in the womb. The womb is kind of like a drum. And I mean, you don't have to agree with this part. The child, when it's moving like that, looks a bit like an ear. But its skin is sending messages to the brain and the nervous system as that fluid around it is touched by voices and intensity out of the body. Of course, the individuals around them don't really know that and wouldn't even think about that because it's not part of anything that we really understand. But the copying and the engaging with tones starts right in the womb, and we just continue on with that when we come out of the womb. We are involved with literally engaging with tones and sound, and because we're listening to how to speak. We also use the intensity that's used with those words for various purposes, which don't seem to be literally the child does not perk up and say, now, this is used for when I'm angry, and this is used when I'm really caring, and this is used when I'm communicating with friends, and this is used when I'm communicating with folks that I'm not really that friendly with. None of that occurs. That's an automatic. It's taken in energetically and held synaptically and engaged literally with our endocrine gland system. And here we are, a whole bunch of chemistry flying through to make some sense of the world around us. And we don't know that we have copied these particular methodologies or patterns from our background. Of course, our parental background has copied them from their parental background, and from their parental background and from their parental background. And how far it goes back, nobody knows. 7 is used as a number, often talked about by many folks, just talked about it that way because nobody knows for sure. However, if you watch, you can also begin to understand, watch internally, that even views about loving, caring, evaluations of folks are learned from the parental background. Also, truths. This is the right way to engage with life, and that is the right way, and you do it this way. And these ideas are more true than other ideas. It just slips all the way back, and that's why we try to have an education. In a kind of a way, some of the stuff that we learn is researched, and some of it is good research, some of it's not, but we're learning. So we have this propensity to want to know, and also this propensity to think we already know. And this is the nature of how we function in the world and how others function in the world as well. And part of the reason why there are so many diverse ways of seeing things, and also diverse methods of saying, this one is more right than that one. It's quite amazing when you begin to think about it. It gets to be a little bit sad and really funny sometimes. Okay, here's the other part. We don't know we're doing that. We copy. We try to imagine how things are. We set up small stories, and they make bigger stories. And they engage reflexively with other stories. We pull them all together like a ball of yarn. And that stuff seems to fit easier because it's been taken as more true than others, and we don't remember having that particular moment. Although it's easy for us to look back and start blaming people for how we function, here's the other deal. They were trained to do what they do in their own way, not good, bad, right, or wrong, just that was the necessary act to engage with for a purpose that related directly to being a person coming out of this way, this family background. 5 or 6 or 7 or 3 siblings don't necessarily act exactly the same way. So they also have a partnership. We are partners of that pattern, that system, and so therefore we try to understand our particular version of it, and it's very difficult to understand. People have great difficulty trying to move out of the construct or the pattern that has been given to them, and they don't know they have it. They can act certain ways and always come up with ideas and reasons why that way of acting was the more right way to act under this particular context. This is the nature of how it works. We're trying to learn to watch and recognize what a pattern might be for us, yet knowing full well it's often very difficult to shift a pattern, and very difficult for us to think that it might not be a pattern that we need to continue using. We often think that we should continue to use these things because it holds us in some sort of particular way that we find in a very strange way, because we don't really perceive it that well, being like those who have trained us. And therefore, that's an act of love. If we're like them, then they will love us better, and they don't even have to exist right now. But it's like an aspect of us, and it's not negative. It is part of a stage of development. And so this, I hope that helps a little bit, Dilla, because it truly is difficult to notice those things. And so go slow with this. Recognize little at a time something that might be helpful to you. Ask yourself questions. Don't look for judgmental answers. Look for understanding and movement in our capacity to learn. And laugh a little bit. Sometimes the nature of how we're developed is more judgmental. So we have to judge something to validate our rightness. And this is part of the nature of just learning how to live on these planes. That judgment of another may not be as necessary as what we think. But in a pattern, we can't quite get to that stage sometimes. Go slow. Be respectful of you, and try to be respectful of the fact that others are learning in their way relative to what they think they have to hold on to be a valued person in the family pattern. Not so simple, is it? I wish you well with that. I wish us all well with that, because we're all involved with taking a look at these things, just so you can loosen up a bit. And then allow yourself to move a little bit past the boundaries that are what we call protective aspects of making sure that we are loved by others. Even if it doesn't look like loving, it's a rendering of someone loving the way they were. Therefore, that is taken on as an aspect of loving. Here's another question. This one is from Barbara Newport. I think it's along the same line, but it says, I find it difficult to observe and leave it at that. I try to find an explanation for what I observe, naturally, and can get frustrated by not understanding what I have observed or what it means. Okay? It's hard to not know what is going on. It feels like not knowing is an inadequacy on my part. So I wrote a couple of things down that might be tend to be helpful, hopefully. Each one of us will have a difficult or a different pattern or way of engaging with any event. In other words, you will see something from one perspective, someone else will see something from another, same thing, from another perspective. Another will see something from a different perspective. Another might see something, and you got the idea. But in analyzing, we are held in a kind of abeyance relative to our patterns. It is not inconceivable that while we're analyzing something, we can get frustrated because whatever we're looking at and trying to analyze doesn't make sense even to bother analyzing it, because you've been doing that all your life, whatever that is. Because it's the nature of what makes sense to the family background. At the same time, as I said before, you're not able to even know you're doing it most of the time, because it just fits into the reflexive engagement that you have with life. Verbal expression, response, engagement, move to the side, move to this side. I'm not sure I want to do that, whatever it may be. But also at the same time, there is a kind of intention to validate how you make sense of things, so that you might also find a retort that allows you to protect yourself. This is the nature of everyone's background. So when you're looking at something like this, you look at it and you're trying to use logic. And it's an emotional logic, because within that logic, there is a protective nature. In other words, the emotional responses that we have that are natural to our patterns, what we've tried to make sense of, they engage without any logic. They're fast. To see that as cumbersome at most, or not perfect at least, is difficult, because they're used to being considered actually quite appropriate. Now, this can happen physically, it can happen emotionally, it can happen what we normally call mentally. And under these circumstances, you try to observe them. And they don't want to be observed except through the methods of observation and translation that you have been, let's say you've taken on as a natural, normal way to be. There's 8 billion people. Everybody has been trained slightly differently and made up their mind differently that this might be more right than that. Especially if you're confrontational with what you see. This makes it a little bit more difficult, because you're not being, you're not observing it, you're taking a look at it, and then you're judging it. So judgment in that case would be a part of your family background. You've learned how to do that in a very particular way. We've all learned how to do that, but in a very particular way. So when looking at it, you begin to try and soften down those observational remarks, which if you were talking to 5 or 6 people about it, you might be okay just coming up with 15 or 20 things that you might think might be of value. But when you're living life, it's a totally different type of thing. You have a very complex relationship with how you function. And much of it is unknown. You don't know you're going to say something till you do. And then when you do, you don't wonder about it. You align with it naturally in a kind of a way to validate how an individual should be, called whatever your name is. And that is a little bit disturbing if you suddenly start observing that you're acting in a way that you've decided is not very comfortable to others or to you. And if you act in a way that makes some sense to you in your family background, then traditionally you are of value because you did it the right way. This makes actually moving through our relationship with our own versions of what is more right than somebody else makes it a little bit more difficult for ourselves, because now we're taking a look little bit at a time. We're not looking for places to beat ourselves up. We're looking for things we do so we can understand ourselves from a slightly different perspective. That's all. That's all. Nothing else. Does that mean I have to come up with a more right answer? No. This is how I do it. Wow. I wasn't quite sure that I did anything like that. Okay, let me try and just soften that down over time. I'll try it. Okay, let's try for 1 out of 10. Let's try for 2 out of 10. Later on, maybe 3. If you get the 5, wow. Your boundary, the wall around the protection of those things that you have already done, has allowed you to loosen itself a bit. It's your boundary, so you're loosening it up in you. And then you have to be careful that you don't hurt you by doing that. And what does that mean? It means really that if you kind of start thinking you're bad because you do this or right because you do that, the two will fight each other. You're trying to see, okay, how can I balance my family pattern in me? How can I get it to be seeable and recognized from time to time? It might be valid, but I might be using the family traditional way of thinking when I do that. So if that's true, let me find a middle ground in this the best I can. I am a believer in some kind of middle ground. Sometimes that's hard to find. Sometimes it's hard to allow. And sometimes the reflexes are so fast because they're so well learned. In very bright people, reflexes are very quick, and they have to be validated as true. They're not always true. That's the part that's hard to understand. And let yourself be okay with that. That means you are a human being engaging in life and finding out that your version of life is not perfect, and it never has been. Neither was your background's perfect, and it never has been. Promoting those backgrounds as the only valuable thing is done reflexively. It's hard to see them, hard to even consider them a little bit not as real as or as right as we've come up with. By the way, or as valuable. Because then we miss the fact that we're growing, and we indent the fact that we're holding everything in the same place that has to be held, otherwise somehow you're not valuable. And that's not real. That's a make-up world, which is what we live in. I hope that helps a little bit. I find that is a very difficult area to be involved with in any version of spiritual growth. So we end up aiming for small goals. If I become able to lift myself off the ground, I will definitely be spiritual. Not really. You may lift yourself off the ground to get to the second floor to rob somebody. That doesn't necessarily mean you're spiritual. Of course, you can always make up another rule. If I could do that and I do rob somebody, that is actually, I could rob them to give to the poor, like Robin Hood. I could. I don't know whether that's spiritual or not. You'll have to figure that one out. Or if I can see stuff differently than everybody else, and I'm more right than anybody else, then that's spiritual. Not really. It's just you have strong opinions about a whole bunch of stuff. Some of them are likely to be not real. But if you've trained yourself to think that they are always the right thing, then you at least have bought the garlic or the gold, and at least you believe in everything you say is right. Well, it's not that way. We are constantly growing, hopefully coming up with ideas that are broader than the ones that we have, and able to handle energy that is more subtle than the ones we know we have to be more right. This is not so simple, this idea of spiritual growth. So try to figure out what you think your definition of that might be. Truly try to think, though. You'll have reflexes come at you like by the carload, relative to beliefs, for sure. Now, try and understand that in a deeper fashion, and you will hit a wall. The reason why you hit a wall is the experience is not yet able to make itself known to you, because you already have definitions in there that won't let it. This is fascinating. And even when you do have the experience, it's so fascinating that you will also search for different experiences, newer ones. You might even define them as better ones. You might come up with some words that really allow you to broaden out how you saw the last ones that you might have experienced. It's not so simple. But most on our planet hold very strongly to beliefs and call them spiritual, a spiritual engagement. I think that is not, at our stage of growth, I don't think it's such a bad thing, except it is rather not spiritual to not look at other people's versions of what you've done and let them call that spiritual. And this has happened in our world over the centuries. We battle. If I bring in 45 tanks and you have 45 tanks and I win this, then I'm more spiritual than you. My version is better than yours. This continues to happen in our world. It's very difficult to really make some sense of an act of engagement with a higher state that loves everybody and anybody, no matter what the version is. Now that's, I know, not often allowed to be expressed, at least broadly. under certain circumstances where it has been declared that only this is right or that is right. Our intellectually profound methodologies do dictate an awful lot, but we may not know as much as we think we have to dictate. And that goes in any direction. We're learning experientially, little by little, so that we can handle the learning experientially. That's why it has to be slow. And we still declare. I have many metaphysical friends that I've had in the past. And if you could move something across the table, you were certainly very capable. If you could see clairvoyantly, which some of us have lost in a certain way because it interfered with going beyond it. But we knew we were helped to understand that might happen so that we could gain access to a different level of understanding and engage in a different way beyond what we considered was truly spiritual. And we do that. We are word users. Words are tools. We put them together in various ways to help each other understand whatever it is we think might be helpful. Or just understand our beliefs, or just, never mind either one, just to engage with each other. And we ache inside to engage with a higher state. And we misconstrue that as being social beings. In a way, still back linked into how we were brought up, should be recognized by others as more valuable than how you were brought up. Those are training wheels, and we all have them. And sometimes we feel not valued enough if we don't have those training wheels. That's why we have them, so that we can construct a central value to our linking as an individual, our linking with society as an individual. So society has a number of rules as well. And people within, groups within society, have a number of ways of thinking life should be like. If it doesn't include others, or all of us, we're still searching for a different way, or a better way, one could say, which will be assessed based on whatever it is that's dominant in a social milieu, whatever ideas that might be important. And this will continue, because it has continued in our past. And every now and then, people come up with different ideas. Some that have actually been very helpful. Some not so much. It's a lot to think about, especially when you're trying to just observe how you function. Not to judge it. And at the same time, understand that we don't copy perfectly. Isn't that an interesting thing to say? Even in the womb, we don't copy perfectly. There's a plus or minus so many % if you want to be very scientific about it, plus or minus so many percent error, in which we can add stuff. Isn't that wonderful? And we can even use old stuff we copied, let's say passed on friendly stuff, in places that we decide we need to use them.
Creative.
Yeah, very creative. Marlene said creative. Yeah, absolutely creative. And it only is there to help us be solidified as a metal wearer. We have this metal pin. I do this, and I know I'm right. Well, and I do those things that I have no idea I'm going to do, but I'll be right in those too. It's not real. It's just part of our learning process. And we continue to learn until we have learned in the womb, and we learn right up to the last second of our last breath. A little bit annoying to put it out there in the open, but we all know that that's true in our own way. So I wish you well with those 7 generations, because the idea is, and I wish you well with this, finding an explanation for everything, because you're not going to find an explanation. That's why I suggest just to observe, recognize. I do say understand, but the understanding comes later. The observational part and the not judging part might be helpful. Put those two together. Understanding is just kind of following kind of a link, a past link with what you've observed before, and how even your tonal expression, for example, will be related to how you were trained. Do your best to cut it just down a little bit so you can see that you have cut it down a little bit. That's encouraging. There's no perfection in this. I can assure you. You will have many little loops where you say to yourself, oh, I think I've reached a certain stage. And then hopefully that stage allows you to go to another one. Be content with growing. Be patient. And be patient with others as well, best you can. How are we doing? Yeah, we have another question. Jean Irving from British Columbia. And she says, I find this one really helps me to go into meditation. And she's talking about the 4-way meditation. For those of you who don't know what that is, it's, you sit down to meditate, and I don't know if you see me, I see me, but here we go. We're going to meditate. So close your eyes, and you can focus through the chest, all the way up the back to the top of the head and down between the eyebrows, right about here, a little farther up. And okay, now you've done that, took a second. And okay, now we're here like this. And then bring what you perceive here right over here to the right. It's like you're just taking this part and moving to the right. Now it's connected. Your right arm is connected to your left arm, if you want to do it that way. It might help you to understand it. Then, now you turn yourself all the way around to the back, facing out the back. Not physically turning you around, mentally, emotionally turning you around. You're focusing back there now. And now, and give it, try it 3 or 4 minutes, a couple of minutes, whatever, until you feel comfortable there. Hold it for a few seconds, and then do it at the back, and then bring it around and do it to this side. So you end up being like this with your left arm. Yeah. It's an old system, an old Buddhist system, which I don't even know if it survived, but it does help you to move out of sync with what you believe has to be real. Just a bit. It also opens up energy through the system. Okay. Sometimes you recommend doing a particular meditation once a week, and she's talking about this one, or perhaps only a few times per week. Is it okay to do the 4-way more frequently, most days per week? I would suggest, just a suggestion, that you do it a couple of times a week. Just a suggestion. Well, I did it 3 times. Okay, then do it 3 times a week. Try not to overdo it. It can cultivate a flow in there that is in you that is really as intense as you can be. And what we're trying to do is soften down the intensity that lies inside. Then if it does that, you might say, well, I'm not doing that meditation. It makes me too intense. Not right away, but maybe later. Keep softening things down. That's why I say do it a couple times a week. Put some space between it if you can. And it will help. If you do it a lot of times a week, it will help at first. Then you'll allocate the meditation the same as you might allocate anything else once you get used to it to not working the same way as it did. And it hasn't stopped. It's the perception of it that's slowed down because you can do it better. Because you kind of figured out and you can feel the sensations of moving around all the time. This can happen, and it can show up while you're, by the way, just going grocery shopping. Any kind of shopping. It can show up in a particular place because the brain and the nervous system has gotten used to it. And it will show up relative to something that might be helpful to another. But you're not in charge of it. You're practicing doing this so your system can be used by a higher state to be helpful to others. That one's hard to take into. Okay. Also, it seems that when one does this a few times, one can imagine the 4-way without actually doing it. Does this make sense? Yes, it does. Is it reasonable to proceed without actually concentrating on each focus? No. At this stage, continue to concentrate on each focus. It will help. Okay? Now she asks the second question. This is a question related to something that we did at a seminar last weekend. And I just suggested another meditation that you could use. And there is a kind of image behind me. I'm not sure how clear that is. Some of you will see that very clearly. I don't see it clearly at all until I put my glasses on, to be honest. And I have to creep in close like that.
It's pretty clear, Ron.
Can you see that?
It's very clear, but don't do that. Leave it the way it was.
Well, I just did. Marlene told me not to, so therefore I have to do it again just to affirm the right moves that I make. You see, that's learning in action. So I'll leave that up just a hair like that now, and she said, could you describe the exercise you mentioned briefly at the seminar last weekend, the one about the square inch at the eyebrow area, or just below the eyebrows? It's above the eyebrows, Jane. And creating a triangle from the square to somewhere in the face. I tried to show a triangle, like that. Starts roughly about here. It's a little higher, just about, you see the earlobes? You'll notice in some Buddhist images, there is a drop from the earlobe to about here. It's like you have an earring on, right from there. You see that? Right there. So what happens is there's two small centers there. Just two small centers. There, when you come from there around here, it's about even with the mouth. So what I'm trying to get you to do was be aware here. I'm so sorry. Here, right? I don't think you can see that very well, but it's even with my mouth. Towards the hinge, it's slightly above the hinge and slightly below the earlobes. Goes up to here, and then this area right here. Since I'm looking at myself, it's very difficult for me to do this. So I'll do this up to about there, cross, and down. That's what was called by many, 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 many people in the Buddhist and the Hindu background. I'm not sure about the Taoists, but they had a strong focus there as well. It opens the brow center and links up with the throat center and those centers behind the neck, often called the altar major. Anyway, or the seven sisters going up and connecting to another state above here, another bunch of chakras, by the way, known by many people or talked about by many groups of people. Just to turn that system on there, right there, and that system opens a link between the pituitary and the pineal glands. It has been spoken of as opening that link, but you won't find that written down. You will find a discussion, perhaps, about that so-called square inch. It's not really, it's a kind of oblong a little bit. It's from here right to here, and some people even move it up here. The Hindus, as this open, talk about opening centers in a line up to the area right at the hairline, to open it so that that construct all the way to the area right back here can be open. The dilemma with all of this stuff is you don't really realize what it does. And people say, okay, this is already open in me. I felt it happen, blah, 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 blah. It's like drawing at a hair link to a beginning of something that is not understood. Because when it does begin to be understood, silence begins to occur. People don't talk about it anymore because it has something to do with the linking up of higher states. It's not about setting a goal and attaining it. just a different thing. So I said, if you like, you can try this meditation just to try and open the area, and it relates to the brow. But it doesn't only relate to the brow, but right now it's related to the brow. And it relates to the throat and the neck area. Please don't try this too often. Once a week, it will do it. If you do practice it once a week, it will help. Too many times a week, you might get some headaches. And then you have to practice some other stuff. That other stuff is related to doing things like the balancing in a particular place that you can find if your hands are turned on. You won't find it. Your hands will. Because we're talking about the experience of an energy field that begins to engage with those centers that are helpful at that level. So it's not as simplistic as, well, let's do this and let's do that, and that kind of thing. If you don't mind a few headaches, try it every day. But I would suggest don't. It's uncomfortable. It's once a week, I would say, okay, good idea. So I apologize if anyone insists on doing it too often in advance for your inability not to follow orders. That, by the way, that covers most of us. We don't do well at those things. So I'm just saying it would be to your benefit just to do it maybe once a week, if you feel like you're inclined to do so. It is now time to set up the meditation system, and I hope everyone is reasonably well and doing the best you can. From my perspective, I think everyone is moving along in a manner that is literally helpful to them. So don't put yourself in any kind of a put-down position. It's not real. I wish you well. Take care.
Namaste. Namastasye, 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 namo namaha. Mahalakshmi Vaishnavi Namastasye, 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 namo namaha. Saraswati Brahmi Namastasye, 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 namo namaha. Durga Devi Shankari Namastasye, 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 namo namaha. Uma Parvati Shive Namastasye, 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 namo namaha. Bhavani Ambike Namastasye, 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 namo namaha. Lalita Devi Amba Lalita Devi Parabhakti Varade Namastasye 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 Namo Namaha Amba Lalita Devi Maya Vishwamohini Namastasye 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 Namo Namaha Amba Lalita Devi Ishwari Narayani Namastasye 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 Namo Namaha Amba Lalita Devi Nitya Parameshwari Namastasye 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 Namo Namaha Amba Lalita Devi Jagadambe Janani Namastasye 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 Namo Namaha Ma Tस्यै नमो नमः सर्वमङ्गलमङ्गल्ये शिवे सर्वार्थसाधिके शरण्ये त्र्यम्बके देवी नारायणी नमोऽस्तुते नारायणी नमोऽस्तुते नारायणी नमोऽस्तुते ॐ
पञ्चदशात्मैक्यस्वरूपाय नमो नमः सदा पञ्चदशात्मैक्यस्वरूपाय नमो नमः ॐ वज्रमाणिक्यकटककिरीटाय नमो नमः कस्तूरीतिलकोलासनिटिलाय नमो नमः कस्तूरीतिलकोलासनिटिलाय नमो नमः ॐ हस्वरेखाङ्कितलसन्मस्तकाय नमो नमः लोचनाय नमो नमः शरच्चाम्बेयपुष्पाभनासिकाय नमो नमः लसत्काञ्चनतातङ्कयुगलाय नमो नमः नमो नमः ชนะกริโตลาสพัลลดาเยนะโมนะมะหาสีโลชนะกริโตลาสพัลลดาเยนะโมนะมะหาโอสีสุทัตติมณิตวีปมัตยมาเยนะโมนะมะหา
Now we'll just begin to do the balancing and grounding on your own, and take care, everybody.